Hi, I'm Derrick Walker, also known as Big Walker or the Blues Walker. I was asked to do a series of videos uh, about blues and my experience playing blues music over the years. I play the saxophone, harmonica, and sing. I've been performing since the 70s. And today I'm going to try to answer the question, why so many jazz players can't play blues. Now, of course, you say, of course we can play blues, and of course you can. What happens that I've noticed over the years, I've mostly hired people who can play jazz, simply because I can hand them a chord chart and they can read it, and they have a very high musicianship. And the typical Chicago blues band would prefer not to read a chord chart. And I play all different types of blues, and from the blues from the 30s and 40s. Some of it, if you think of Bessie Smith or Billie Holiday, don't follow the typical Chicago blues format. So it's more advantageous for me to hire a jazz player who has more experience with chords. The problem that I found with some of these musicians is that they take it for granted that they can play every blues song because it's simple, and maybe don't do the work and care that they do for playing jazz. For instance, I'll tell a story of when I was in college. I used to play with a lot of blues bands, mostly in black areas in Oakland and Berkeley, the East Bay. And when people found out about this, when I was in the concert band in college, a lot of the guys, they wanted to come and play blues. And so I invited some of the guys to one of the blues clubs. It's called Eli's Mile High Club, and it was a predominantly black club back in the 70s. And I remember one of the guys, the alto player, very good alto player. He could play circles around me. He was able to play Parker and Coltrane, and he was really into playing jazz. And I was playing in quite a few blues bands at that time, so I was experienced in playing blues already. But he was overconfident, and what happened was he got called up on stage backing up one of the blues divas at the club. And him being a very handsome young man, she liked it, and she said, "Oh yes, well, let's have this guy up." And they throw him a solo, and he starts playing, and she stops in the middle of his solo and throws him off the stage and says, "Don't come playing that stuff on my gig." And he comes to me later, "What happened? Why? What did I do wrong?" And the first thing I would say that he had done wrong is he was not listening to her. He didn't listen to the melody she was singing. He didn't know the traditional parts that were played on that particular blues standard. And he didn't know the aesthetics of blues music. He overplayed. You don't go to a Chicago blues gig and start playing bebop lines and showing off too much. It's good to play well, of course. You want to take a good solo, but it has to be in the idiom that you're playing. It has to be appropriate. What you play should be appropriate to the song, to the type of music you're playing. So if I go to a jazz jam session, I'm going to probably only go up on a song that I'm familiar with. I'm not going to go up when they call giant steps or Spain, because I would be lost in the changes. So what a lot of jazz players figure is that, it's easy. It's just one chord or three chords, and I should be able to wing this. Sure, you can do that if you're familiar with blues music. You have to ask yourself, how many blues records do I have in my record collection? If you're a saxophone player, do I know what the typical blues sax players play? What does a Chicago blues saxophone player play? What does that sound like? And if you have no idea, and you go up and you start playing what you think blues is, and I would say, Charlie Parker is just a very good Kansas City saxophone player. But that was at that time in that idiom, and they played bebop, which was a revolution at the time. But it's not Chicago blues. There's nothing wrong with playing some fast licks or something, but you have to play everything in context. I recently did a tour in China, and I hired jazz players, mostly jazz players, to be my backing band at a resident gig for 4 months at a club in China. And after a couple gigs, one of the band members came up to me and said, "I didn't realize how hard it was to play a slow blues." And I mean a real slow blues. And you would think that it would be easy. It's slow, and it's just a blues. It's just a few changes. But if you don't know, for instance, when someone's finished their solo, and it's time for the vocal to come in, that we come in on the 4 chord on that particular type of slow blues anyway. If you don't know that, it's confusing when it happens. And why don't you know that? Because you don't have any blues records in your collection, and you weren't prepared for that. Sometimes there's and often there's a blues that happens that has no real turnaround. That it just goes back to the 1 chord, without a turnaround, and I find that people get so locked in playing this turnaround because they believe this is what a blues song does. There's always this turnaround at this point. And even if you tell them that the song starts, they get excited and they play the turnaround. It messes up the singer, and the singer is not going to be happy with you. The band won't be happy with you. So, like I said, respect blues as much as you do jazz. Dexter Gordon said, if you can't play blues, you might as well give it up. Even Miles Davis did, I believe, two albums with John Lee Hooker. He respected the blues. He understood the importance of the blues, and I find a lot of musicians these days don't even recognize the blues. I played on a cruise ship for a long time. Many tours over many years on cruise ships, working with DJs, and I found that 90% of them had no idea what blues was, and didn't recognize it as having anything at all to do with the music that we were playing, and it was a very frustrating experience for me to be with having to work together 4 to 6 shows a day, 7 days a week, with people that absolutely didn't recognize blues as having anything to do with what we were doing. Same thing in rock music, heavy metal, pop. You can hear blues in all these music styles. My suggestion is for anybody out there who is inspiring to be any sort of professional musician, is to include this in your record collection. Do the research yourself, because you'll find things that you will be interested in, that you will like. I could just give you some hints. Muddy Waters, Willie Dixon, Sonny Boy Williamson, some singers. I mean, even if you listen to Sarah Vaughan, it will even include blues, or listen to Dinah Washington. There's a lot of great singers out there, but you have to remember that blues is part of the root. There's classical music, and there's African music, and in the middle came blues. It's more the trunk of the tree, and then the branches are rock and roll, soul. Later came hip hop. And jazz is something that permeates through all these styles, because it can incorporate all the styles. That's the beautiful thing about jazz. It could be any style of music can be incorporated in jazz, but still the root, the big root in this thing is blues, and that's my message for today. I'm going to do some more videos about some of my adventures with people like Michael Bloomfield and Paul Butterfield and some great blues players. I'm Derrick Walker, the Blues Walker, and I hope you got something out of this video. I'd like to thank Neil over at Saxland, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
All of a sudden, I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. A black cloud, it came right through the wall. A black cloud, oh, it came right through the wall. As it came closer, I did begin to skulk.